Hey everyone, Nick Walker here with Front Runners Footwear. Today I'm going to be talking to you about footwear. Obviously with starting any training plan, or even if you're an experienced runner, choosing the right footwear can be the difference in what keeps you going and keeps you healthy. We have hundreds of styles of shoes, so finding that right fit is hugely important. One of the best things to know is that we're here to assess the foot, do some biomechanical tests that will let us gauge what shoe would be best for shape of the foot, strength of the foot, and then what you're using the shoe for, whether you're running, walking, roads, trails, treadmill, other gym use. There's lots of different factors that go into picking the right shoe. So a few of the things I'm going to talk to you about today is some differences in the shoes. So when you come into us, as I mentioned, we will do a full assessment and help pick the right shoe for you. When we're looking at shoes that are right for the foot, we're wanting to make sure that we're getting shoes that have a nice strong heel counter, so that your foot is nice and secure in the shoe. Depending on the shape of the foot, whether you wear orthotics or anything like that, some shoes have a straight last, some shoes have a curved last. There can be different volumes within the shoes. We obviously have lots of different widths as well. And making sure that the shoe is wrapping well around the heel, midfoot, and then giving lots of toe room in the forefoot. With all the different shoes that we have, there's lots of different stability levels depending on the foot type, as well as they're now kind of changing the way that we look at control or motion control within a shoe. For example, here I have the Brooks Adrenaline. With the Brooks Adrenaline, what they use is they use what's called a guidance rail system that helps keep the foot centered and stops rear heel eversion, so it stops the foot from rolling one way or the other. A simple analogy I use is like bumper lanes in bowling. They help kind of guide you straight through the lane. And so that's essentially what this guidance rail system is designed to do, so that if the foot tries to roll out or collapse in, it helps to keep you straight so that you have a nice straight toe off on the shoe. When we look at all the different styles of shoes, we can have lightweight shoes, moderate cushion shoes, high cushion shoes. We can go trail shoes. There's a whole different gambit of shoes that you can be in. When we look at some of the trail shoes, what they'll tend to do is they'll beef up the upper a little bit, makes it a little bit more resilient. They put a more aggressive tread on the outsole. They'll put rock protection plate on the inside so that it helps protect the foot from rocks poking up and through the shoe. It also provides a little bit more torsional rigidity so that you feel a little bit more secure off-road. If you're running trails like Cedar Hill Rec Center or Elk and Beaver, usually you can just get away with the road shoe, as those are kind of hard-packed, fairly flat trails. But if you're going into the more aggressive, like Mount Finlayson or Goldstream Park, then going up into a proper trail shoe can really make a difference and help you feel secure on those trails. When we look at some of the other neutral shoes, as I compared, I have the Brooks Dyad here or the Brooks Ghost. They both have quite different platforms, so depending on the foot shape and foot type will depend on what shoe might work best for you. As an example, this Brooks Dyad here, it has a full outsole ground contact, which tends to make it just a little bit more stable of a shoe. So sometimes people have a little bit more balance issues or tend to supinate a little bit more, which means that they're going on the outside. This tends to be a little bit more stable of a neutral shoe than maybe the Brooks Ghost might be. When we're looking at a shoe, you want the shoe to fit kind of right out of the box. It should feel comfortable initially. You shouldn't really have necessarily a break-in period. You want it to feel like it's kind of part of the foot, so if you're comparing a few different models and you find that one just moves a little bit more naturally, that's usually a good sign that the shoe is fitting well. Another thing to consider is shoe size. When picking obviously the right shoe, is you do want to have a little bit of toe wiggle room at the end of the shoe. As you exercise, your foot can swell, as well as obviously the muscles can relax, and so your foot can kind of flatten out a little bit more. And so usually when you compare this to a dress shoe or more of a casual shoe, you usually actually have to go up a half to almost a full size. And every shoe is different, so you might be an 8 in one and you might be in an 8.5 in another, or a 7.5 in another. So really not getting hung up on the size, and really making sure that you're getting the right fit and not worrying about what size. Different things like lacing can make a big difference on how the shoe fits. If you're someone that you find that your foot or your toes are going numb at the end, we can do some simple lacing changes that can help to offload some of the pressure on the bridge of the foot, and that can really make a big difference again in how the shoe fits. For some people that have a narrow heel, a 2A or 3A heel, doing a little bit of a lace lock with the lacing system can really help tie in that heel and pull it in and ensure that you don't get any slippage. One thing that can also really help make a shoe fit better is a nice sock. So pairing a new pair of shoes with a new pair of socks will really help to give you a nice feel so that you're not getting a bunching in the sock. We have lots of anatomically designed socks, so that's left foot and right foot, so that you're getting a nice compression band through the arch, and it really allows you to feel the true fit of the shoe. Again, when you're coming to look at footwear, it's really important that you're letting us know what you're using the shoe for. If you've had any past injuries, you can bring in your old shoes and we can take a look at the wear. We can see how the midsole or outsole is wearing, as well as the compression of the midsole. That will kind of help give us more information on picking the next shoe for you. A question we often get asked is, how do I know when my shoes are worn out? If you can fold your shoe fully in half, they're probably toast. Another test you can do is you can kind of do a thumb test on the forefoot. If you find that the forefoot is really mushy and really spongy, that's usually a sign that the foam has kind of packed out. You can kind of think of the midsole as memory foam. So it compresses during your run, and then the next day it rebounds, or overnight it rebounds, and then it compresses and rebounds, compresses, rebounds, and eventually over time the foam doesn't rebound. So it might feel like a slipper under the foot, but if it's not absorbing that impact from running or walking, then the shoe isn't doing you any favors. A shoe can also, if you've had a shoe in the closet for 5 years and you're just pulling it out for the first time, the foam does degrade, and so it might not be providing all of the cushioning that you would want from a shoe. So keeping those things in mind, as well as if you're working a full day and you're wearing your running shoe all day, what you're doing is you're compressing that foam to its least shock absorbing state, and then if you go to do your exercise in the evening, now you're doing the highest impact on the body when the foam in the shoe is in its least shock absorbing state. So really trying to make sure that if you're using your running shoe, you're just using it for running. A good trick, obviously it's not always economically feasible, but is having 2 different shoes, either 2 different running shoes or your daily shoe for walking around, as well as your running shoe. It's almost as hugely important to have a good fitting shoe for your day-to-day shoe. If you think that you're running 3 days a week for 45 minutes to an hour, where you're wearing your daily shoe 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're actually putting more stress on the body with that day-to-day shoe. So making sure that that day-to-day shoe is providing as much support and cushion and shock absorption as possible, so that when you go into your runs or your walks, that your body isn't already kind of beaten down from the day. When you're looking at the wear on a shoe, the outsole wear will kind of guide us on whether a shoe is overcorrecting you or not providing enough support. And so, like I mentioned, bringing in some of those your old shoes to show us how that wear is. It is pretty typical to wear in the rear outside of your heel, and that's pretty common, especially for walking, because that's your natural strike zone. So if you're comparing it to a dress shoe, that is pretty common to wear extra through that area. But it's really the forefoot that is telling us the most information on how a shoe is wearing. The best thing that I can recommend you do is come on in, and we can assess the foot and make sure that we get you in the right shoe to keep you healthy and happy. Thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you at Front Runners.